in the end.
By the year 2000, the Need for Speed series was in an interesting place. You have 4 successful titles, but then Porsche Unleashed came out. Rather than focus on a variety of cars from many different manufacturers, the game only focused on Porsche models. This kind of idea limited the game's appeal, and while it was received positively, not as well as past titles though, it underperformed commercially. This was especially the case in Germany, where Porsche was founded. EA knew they needed to get things back to where they were with the series, and they took a break for a year with no new Need for Speed title in 2001. We had gotten Motor City Online in its place, a game that was originally going to be part of the Need for Speed series, but all single-player stuff was dropped in favor of an MMO racer. That same year, though, EA announced the next proper entry in the series, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. The game would be the 6th entry in the series, and a direct follow-up to the 3rd game, which was subtitled Hot Pursuit. Many varieties of cars would return, and the police, something that had been absent from Porsche Unleashed due to the nature of the game, would return. Racing, cop chases, fast cars, what more could you want? In early 2002, more information about the game would come out, and it was announced that it would be multi-platform. However, the PS2 version was developed by a different studio compared to all other versions, Black Box Games. Black Box had a handful of games under their belt by this point: NHL 2K, NHL Hits 2002/2003, and Sega Soccer Slam. But their work on NASCAR 2001 set the stage for what was to be a major run in the Need for Speed series. At E3 2002, EA revealed more info about the game, and it looked very nice. The game was also officially set for fall of 2002. Heck, EA had so much faith in the studio that, in some kind of foreshadowing-like way of what happened with Criterion, EA bought Black Box before the game was even finished. The game went gold 1 month before release, and it released on time for the major platforms, though the PC version didn't go gold until 5 days before its official North American release. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 was developed by Black Box Games on PS2 and EA Seattle on GameCube, Xbox, and PC. The console versions released in North America on October 1st, 2002. Australian GameCube release was October 18th, 2002. 6 days later for PS2 and Xbox in that territory, and 1 day later for Europe. The PC versions released on October 21st, 2002 for North America, 3 days later for Australia, and November 8th, 2002 for Europe. EA Seattle's version served as the basis for an arcade version under the name Need for Speed, released in North America on September 30th, 2003 by Global VR. May 18th, 2004 saw the updated version in Need for Speed GT. The footage you're seeing in this review is from the PS2 version, since it's considered the best. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 will push you more than the past games, but the racing action is just as satisfying as the past games, maybe even more so. Hot Pursuit 2's main modes are split into 2. You have World Racing and the titular Hot Pursuit mode. Within that, there are several sub-modes. Both have Quick Race and Challenge. Quick Race just drops into a race on an already unlocked track with a randomly selected set of cars. Challenge mode lets you customize your race so you can choose which track and cars and additional settings you want. Hot Pursuit mode has an additional sub-mode called You're the Cop. Your goal is to stop all the racers by any means necessary. You can call on additional support for things like roadblocks and helicopters, but be warned, when you're going against the cops, they can use these things against you as well. The main mode of play, though, or modes in this case, are Ultimate Racer in Hot Pursuit and Championship in World Racing. Both of these modes have a tree with 30 events each. Ultimate Racing has you dealing with car deliveries and normal races while avoiding the police. Championship is only really focused on pure racing. As you move throughout the game, you'll unlock more events. Some of these events have rewards, like various cars and tracks. There's a lot to get through, but you may be here a while because the gameplay, oh boy, it's fun, but it's hectic as hell. Hot Pursuit 2's racing at its core remains similar to the past NFS games. The courses consist of a mix of lap circuit races and point A to point B races. Your goal is to cross the finish line first. When doing normal races, all you have to worry about is the other racers and traffic, but when doing it in Hot Pursuit mode, you have to deal with the cops. There's a meter under the rearview mirror, and if it fills up, the cop sees you and will start chasing you throughout the race. There are up to 4 stars the pursuit meter can go. The higher it gets, the more the tactics the police will use to stop you will become more dangerous. They will call in additional backup. They'll also call in roadblocks and or spike strips, and they can even call in a helicopter that will drop exploding barrels if you crash into them. They'll also try to block you, and they'll do whatever they have to in order to stop you. If you get busted 3 times in a race, you're done for the race. So you really have to be careful with the cops. This is difficult early on because you'll only have so many cars, and they don't have the best stats, but this becomes a bit easier once you get the better cars. I say only a bit because the cop AI in general is more aggressive than the previous games and was an omen of what was to come in Most Wanted. Not to mention, the racing can get extremely hectic. The game has an arcade feeling to it like the past games, so it's very easy to turn and stop on a dime, but there are times where even a single crash in the wrong turn combination can either spin you out or you'll be sent flying in some cases. I once actually had a cop car literally push the rear of the Opel Speedster I was driving up, and it just kept pushing. While this is somewhat hilarious, it's also frustrating because something like that happening can cost you a race and make you restart. It all feels a bit too over the top. Even Burnout didn't go this far at times unless you just straight up crashed. That's not what's happening here. In spite of these frustrations, the actual racing still remains fast, intense, and it's still fun. It actually feels a lot more intense than the original games because of the crazy stuff that can happen, but the game is still very easy to control. There are 4 different control schemes, so they only really affect the placement of the handbrake, horn/siren, accelerate, and brake/reverse. Input is responsive, turning feels good, button placement is good, and the default control scheme will work for everyone. It's this way from the basic to the best of the cars. Not much else to say. The graphics here are pretty good, at least on the PS2 version. The other versions do look good, but the PS2 version has some neat aesthetical touches that put it over the edge. For starters, the cars look pretty good. They look like they do in real life, but they aren't quite showroom shiny though. Not that they would last that long anyway, since you can turn on damage as an option. You get some damage effects like cracked windows and smoking cars, but it's nothing to the effect of Burnout. The tracks themselves also look very nice given this was the first NFS game for the 6th gen. Some environmental textures don't look so sharp up close, but there are some nice effects like scraping effects when up against a wall, dust effects when driving off-road, etc. The real standout is these Matrix-like camera shots of your car making a big jump. This is something that stuck around for a while in the series, and for good reason. It looks cool. There's even a 360 pan around that pauses the race for a bit and shows you what's around you at a very specific moment, like it'll pan around your car. There's even a shot that lets you see what's ahead for a bit. The last big standout here is the tracks. NFS has always had cool looking tracks, and this game is no exception. We've got tropical themed courses, coastal themed courses with some forest stuff, Mediterranean courses, and alpine ones. It gives us a good amount of choice in where to race, and each of these environments do have their own distinct looks and feels to them. The PS2 version has an exclusive desert set of levels. Overall, the game looks nice. Maybe not as nice as later entries, but it's still a good first effort for the 6th gen. Sound design here is also pretty good. Let's start with the music. This game was one of the first to use the EA Tracks ordeal. This was basically EA using licensed music in many other mainline titles. Here we get a mix of mostly rock songs, with songs by The Buzzhorn, Course of Nature, Pulse Ultra, Bush, and Rush. With new metal band Hot Action Cop rounding out the soundtrack with Fever for the Flava and Going Down on It, the latter of which is used as the game's intro theme, both of which had to be modified for the game. And let's just say some of you may prefer the edited versions to the original. Some non-licensed stuff includes some techno from the Humble Brothers, who did work for other EA games at this point, like Freestyle, some rock from Matt Regan, and one last hoorah for longtime NFS composer Ron DePrisco with the techno track Cycloid. A decent mix, and thanks to the EA Tracks function, you can turn on or off songs in specific modes, the menus, or just turn some off, period. At least a handful of these songs are still in my playlist, and while the soundtrack might not be as memorable as later games, it's still good for what it is. Sound effect design is pretty basic and not far off from the OG games. Engine sounds sound powerful, other sounds match where they should for driving, cop cars, explosions, whoosh sounds on the epic camera shots. I think you get the idea. Voice acting here is fine, but it mostly boils down to the announcers and cops. Jim Conrad returns as the showcase announcer, having done this in NFS 2 and High Stakes. The other announcer is veteran Canadian VA Gary Chalk, who's done some work on FIM, and I gotta stop pointing out every time a FIM VA did work on another project. Oh wait, no I don't. Now, he's not the only one here. Once again, Bulk Biceps VA Michael Dobson voices a cop after having done the showcase announcing in Need for Speed 3. So does Doc Harris, announcer for the Ocean dub of Dragon Ball Z, and Grogar's voice. And Sharon Alexander. Okay, her work in MLP was more Equestria Girls, but she also voiced Samantha in Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2. Oh, and Shippo from Inuyasha's VA voices the helicopter pilot. And with how long the modes can be, you'll be here for quite a while, and that's not counting the various cars you can earn via points, which you earn through normal play, or fulfilling specific requirements. Either way, you're going to be here a good while with all this stuff to play with. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 plays well, looks well, controls well, sounds good, has a lot of content to keep you busy, and it feels like a proper send-off to the old school style of NFS games that would take a break until Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2010. However, the action can get a little too arcade-like, which results in some races going off the rails. The game can feel a bit grind-heavy, and the lack of platform synchronicity does suck. The PS2 version really does shine, because not only was it Black Box's debut with the series, it kicked off a legendary run that cemented the series in many of our minds. It might not be as impressive as the other ones, but it's still worth playing. I would go for the PS2 version. It even has retro achievement support, which is the main reason I wanted to replay it, and that sort of led to this review happening, so here you go. I give Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 a 4 out of 5 for the PS2 version. All other versions, I give a 3.5 out of 5. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe below and check out the playlist on screen for more content. To help support the show beyond the usual means, check out my Patreon and Ko-fi on the link tree in the description. And come by my Twitch where I conquer my backlog one game at a time. See you in the next video.